If you're new to buying or selling, refinancing, all of the above, there are some terms that you may not be familiar with when it comes to job titles and those involved. We're going to delve into the escrow officer's function at a title company. This is Michael Adams. I work at WG Title, manage the title agency here, and we're going to talk about the role of an escrow officer. So being an escrow officer, you wear a lot of hats because you are really a middleman in the middle of the process. We talk to lenders, buyers, sellers, real estate agents, surveyors, a lot of different people involved in the transaction. We all work together to get to the closing table so that you can get sold or you get your property purchased. One of the duties of an escrow officer is what they call a fiduciary duty of transparency. That's where we have to disclose to every party what we know in an honest manner and keep a good ethics towards handling the money side of the transaction as well as the documents. But one of the main roles is the money, and that's where the escrow term comes from. So as an escrow officer, we're dealing with a lot of money in and out every day on different files. It's important to keep an accounting of this money and make sure we're getting it down to the very penny. When we get audited, we have to make sure that everything checks off, deposits are made, checks are cashed, nothing's stale dated, things like that. And we have to comply with a lot of government agency regulations and rules and laws, also banking as well. Another role is the document part of the process. That's keeping everything documented, making sure we're disclosing to each party that we need to be, and that we're also not disclosing information to parties that aren't privy to that information because we don't want to leak any sensitive data out to the public. This is very important when dealing with financing because we have a lot of information on clients that they wouldn't want to get out to the public for privacy, identity theft reasons, and other concerns that might arise from leaked data. Because of this, we have to be vigilant on who we're dealing with and make sure that we're not being scammed or phished through email and other sources, texts, phone calls. You'd be surprised at the amount of people that call in and ask for information they don't deserve and shouldn't be getting from us, but they just try to do it anyway. Title companies are also a good resource for realtors and lenders for referrals because we work with a lot of them around town and all over the nation, and we know the good ones, and we also know what to look out for when you don't feel something's right or you're being misled. Another role of the documents is closing, obviously, where you're going to sign all the documents at closing. We have to be very familiar with what we're going over with you. So when we get to the end of a closing as a title officer, we get to what's called funding. This is where we actually take all the money we received in and dish it out to everybody who gets a piece of the pie, whether it's a payoff, a seller, a lender that's getting their fees back from closing, a survey company, realtors that need to get paid, and different items like that. Funding is very sensitive and time sensitive at that because the money needs to move quickly without interruption or any mistakes. So this is vital that we have an eye on all the numbers, where the money's going, how it's going to get there, check, wire. Is the person going to come pick up the check? Do we need to overnight it? This all happens very fast. We also have to deal with recording documents in a very timely manner so nothing slips between the title commitment and when it's time to fund. All right, after funding, the policy is issued and the file is given over to the policy department for them to audit the file post-closing, make sure we didn't miss anything, and then issue the final title policy to send it out to the applicable party. We can't, in a legal standpoint, give you legal advice, but we can explain the documents and what the intention of the documents are. Just be aware that we're limited on what we can say and any opinions we can really give you. Another important aspect of closing is taxes. We're talking about the IRS, so this mainly deals with sellers. We get asked a lot of questions about how this will affect my tax return and different things like that. And unfortunately, we are not accountants, we're not CPAs, so we really can't give advice. Keep in mind that most people's personal income tax is very situational, and it just doesn't allow us to be able to give you any advice on that. So always contact a tax professional if you have questions on that matter. As a title officer, we try to remain a neutral third party and disclose where we can, and sometimes that puts us in a sticky situation when the buyer and seller aren't getting along or there's something that comes up that causes a problem with the closing, and they look to us to try to solve it. We do what we can, but we have to remain within the boundaries of the regs given to us by TDI. So a quick summary of that: an escrow officer's job, duties, and functions. You've got receiving contracts, getting the file going, getting it off to the title examiner, getting title commitments sent out. We deal with money in between that time, maybe ordering surveys. And then when it's time for closing, we need to get the documents executed and to the correct parties they belong to. And then we're going to fund the file, get the money sent out, and then get the policy issued so you can get the product you paid for. All right, if you found this information useful, please like below and share. You can always reach out to us with the information below, and feel free to contact us with any information or questions you might have.